Hello televiewers and welcome to today's edition of the news. We open this edition with a feature story about toilets in Cameroon. A toilet, in simple terms, is a fixed receptacle into which a person may urinate or defecate, and it can be with or without flushing water. On the occasion of World Toilet Day celebrated every November 19, this year's focus is on sustainable sanitation and climate change. It is about taking action to tackle the global sanitation crisis and achieve sustainable development goals, water and sanitation for all by 2030. Climate change is accelerating. Flood, drought and rising sea levels are threatening sanitation systems, from toilets to septic tanks to treating plants. The economic capital of Cameroon, Douala, for instance, often experiences floods in the rainy season, posing a lot of threat to human life as a result of poorly constructed waste tanks. Flood water thereby contaminates wells used for drinking water or might even damage toilets, which very often is the case, and spread human waste into communities and food crops, causing deadly and chronic diseases. To achieve a sustainable sanitation for all, everyone is called upon to ensure they have clean water and hand-washing facilities to help protect and maintain our health security and to stop the spread of deadly infectious diseases such as cholera, typhoid, diarrhea, and COVID-19 being the latest, and lots more. Every professional training attains its goal only when trainees access to real-life situations as opposed to the theory received in school. That is the guiding principle that the Advanced Vocational Training Center in Douala is working with as they sign 25 partnership agreements with enterprises and national organizations on Thursday, November 19, 2020. An agreement that is aimed at constructing a permanent process of exchange so as to facilitate professional insertion of youth in the challenging world of enterprise. Presiding at the ceremony, the first deputy mayor representative of the Douala City Mayor did not fail to highlight the importance of such an agreement for a country on the path of emergency like Cameroon.
The main axis of our politics in the town should be empowerment of the youth. And we have opportunity through this formation center to have a wonderful plateau technique, and we could not but only associate ourselves to this institution so that we enter in a win-win relationship to the best of interest of our youth.
The Littoral Regional Delegate at the Ministry of Employment and Vocational Training examined the stakes and challenges of an emerging Cameroon, bringing out the leading role Douala has as an economic hub in the country as well as the sub-region. To these partners, much is expected from the training center.
The first thing that I'm expecting from the Centre d'Excellence is mutual cooperation. And to me and my enterprise is a means of giving back to the country. So we are getting our students, we are getting our community quite well fitted on the global job marketplace, because the world is already a global village, and the skills that we have in Cameroon should be the same skills that can be comparable everywhere in the world.
Experts hold that for Cameroon's industrialization process to be achieved, we need to turn to professional training so as to attain international standards. After claiming over 55 lives in the past 5 months, the latest Ebola epidemic was declared to be over in the Democratic Republic of Congo by Health Minister Eteni Logondo. I am very happy to solemnly declare the end of the 11th epidemic of Ebola virus in Equateur Province, Minister Logondo announced on Wednesday, November 18, after the country crossed the threshold of close to 50 days without a new case recorded. WHO General Director Dr. Tedros Adhanom tweeted in a message that This great achievement shows that together we can overcome any health challenge. Tackling Ebola in parallel with COVID-19 has not been easy, as both diseases involves finding, isolating, testing and caring for every case and relentless contact tracing. Note that the Ebola outbreak was the 11th on record in DRC, and its spread raised fears that it could reach the capital, Kinshasa, before being brought under control. The challenge of containing the disease was implicated or complicated by the COVID-19 pandemic and exacerbated by the spread of Ebola cases in remote areas in dense rainforests. Seven have died and several wounded in protests following the latest arrest of presidential candidate Bobi Wine. Authorities say the opposition candidate was detained for violating anti-coronavirus measures while campaigning. Bobi Wine was arrested at a campaign rally in the east of the country on Wednesday, November 18. The police bundled him into a van, claiming that he had drawn a crowd larger than the 200 people recommended by the Electoral Commission as a coronavirus preventive measure. Uganda Red Cross said it had treated more than 30 people in the capital, Kampala, including 11 who had suffered gunshot wounds after young protesters disrupted traffic with fires and barricades as they called for Wine's release. Robert Kwagulini, known as musician Bobi Wine, has on several occasions been blocked by police, as he was most recently arrested in November 3, just moments after registering his candidacy. The US has condemned the violence that gripped Uganda's capital, Kampala, and other major towns, urging all parties to renounce violence and to undertake measures to reduce tensions. Uganda would hold presidential elections in January 2021, and so far, campaigns have been marked by police violently enforcing pandemic restrictions. Trade unions in Mali have launched a 3-day nationwide strike after talks with the new transitional government failed. The strike runs from Wednesday, November 18 through Friday, November 20, as organized by the National Workers' Union of Mali, UNTM, to demand improving working and living conditions for workers. The union had held talks with the government to discuss the problems, negotiations which were expected to conclude on Tuesday, November 17, but local media indicates that an agreement was not confirmed between the UNTM and the authorities, and therefore the strike action was launched. The UNTM is the largest union in Mali, representing 80% of the unionized workers in the country, including miners, prison workers, teachers, health workers, and other civil servants. Though earning a relatively higher salary than most other workers in Mali, this medical doctor, for instance, says he has gone for months without salaries, and so now he is joined to the strike. They demand a respect of their rights and that the authorities stick to their words and obligations. Apart from better pay and working conditions, the civil servants are equally demanding to see an end to corruption and inequity in the civil service, as some earn extremely low and others extremely high, as Yakuba Katil, president of the National Union of Workers, explains. This strike comes after 3 days of national mourning for the late president Amadou Toumani Touré, and could bring about associated demonstrations outside government buildings in Bamako and other cities across the south and center of the country. Ahead of the presidential election to take place on Sunday, November 22 in Burkina Faso, the electoral campaign is marked by a significant security deployment. Given the insecurity, close to 1,500 villages out of more than 8,000 will not vote on Sunday, representing 17% of the national territory, the Constitutional Council reported. Zéphirine Diabré, leader of the opposition and member of the party of former President Blaise Compaoré, heavily denounced throughout the course of his campaign the president's approach in the fight against jihadist insurgency. The army, disorganized and poorly equipped, continues to pay a heavy price in its fight against jihadist groups and seems unable to stop the expansion of their areas and influence. President Roch-Marc Christian Kaboré, seeking a second term in office after Sunday's vote, will have to defend another 5 years as the head of state that has much criticized after 5 years of raising insecurity in the country. More on this in a subsequent edition. Polish citizens on Thursday, November 19, have once again rallied against the Constitutional Court's decision to ban abortion in the country. In view of mobilization scale, the government has for the moment suspended the verdict, a temporary decision as many are worried about what will happen next. Thousands of demonstrators blocked several cities in the country, such as Warsaw, where medical students organized a blockade in the center, but worries were put up all around by police who were present. Abortion is allowed in Poland only if the pregnancy is a result of rape or incest, if the woman's life is in danger, or if the fetus is affected by severe congenital defects. The recent court decision on October 22nd eliminated the last of these three conditions from the list. If the ruling goes through as it stands, abortion will be almost completely banned. For the past month, despite the pandemic, many have participated in all demonstrations in favor of the right to abortion, but the Polish woman has no illusions about the future. Five countries, the UK, the US, Australia, Canada and New Zealand, have accused China of consecrated campaign to silence critical voices in Hong Kong in breach of its international obligations. As part of an intelligence alliance called Five Eyes, they say had serious concern over China's disqualification last week of 4 pro-democracy lawmakers in Hong Kong and demanded they be reinstated. Their foreign minister urged Beijing to reinstate elected members of the territory's legislature who were arbitrarily dismissed last week. As China tightens its grip on Hong Kong, international unease is growing. They say that China's action is a clear breach of its international obligations under the UK-China Joint Declaration signed between the two countries before the territory was handed back to Beijing in 1997, and that the disqualification rules appear as part of a concerted campaign to silence all critical voices. These rules disqualify some selected members of Hong Kong's Legislative Council. They are accusing Beijing of undermining the rights of people in Hong Kong to elect their representatives. So they urge China to reinstate the legislators and live up to its commitments as a leading member of the international community. The question now is whether this political pressure will ever be reinforced by economic sanctions. For the first time in 30 years, Iraq and Saudi Arabia have opened the Arrah border crossing for trade. A statement by the Iraqi Border Port Commission said top officials, including Iraqi Interior Minister and the Saudi ambassador to Iraq, traveled from Baghdad to formally open Arrah, where a line of cargo trucks had been waiting since Wednesday morning. A delegation from Riyadh was to open on Saudi Arabian side of the border crossing, which will be open to both goods and people. Arrah had remained closed since 1990 after the two countries cut ties following former Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait. The first commercial flights resumed between the two countries, and officials began discussing Arrah with high-profile U.S. diplomat Brett McGurk, even visiting the crossing in 2017 to support its reopening. This comes as part of efforts to improve the bilateral relations between both countries. That's the end of the news for today. Thanks for watching and stay on DBS for upcoming programs.